Greek mythology is divided into two main areas that are often intertwined. One of them is about the gods and their deeds, while the other is about the adventures of the heroes. Prometheus, the son of the Titan Iapetus, formed humans from clay. Various authors, including Herodotus, mention 5 different ages. The Golden Age, under the reign of Kronos, people lived in a permanent spring without pain, sorrow, or arduous work for many centuries. The Silver Age, after the fall of Kronos, the Silver Race existed and also lived long, but faced hardships such as the changing seasons and were ultimately destroyed due to their lack of respect for the gods. The Bronze Age, the people of this era were extremely violent and lived in a world where both houses and weapons were made of bronze. The Heroic Age, the people of this time were characterized by their bravery and heroism. The great cycles of legends about Thebes, Troy, and other events took place in this era. The Iron Age, in this last era, described by all sources as degenerate and suffering, lived the poets who told the great epics. The gods still existed, but had withdrawn and hardly intervened in people's daily lives. One of the most famous heroes of the Heroic Age is Heracles, son of Zeus. Heracles was taught the arts of charioteering, archery, fencing, fist-fighting, and wrestling. He was also taught to sing and play the lyre. Although he was very docile, he was always hot-tempered to the point of madness. So he killed his music teacher Linos with the lyre when he wrongly reprimanded him. His foster father King Amphitryon then sent him to Catharon to his herds of cattle, probably out of fear of his unbridled strength. Here he grew into a youth among the shepherds. On the Catharon, where the herds of Amphitryon and those of Thespius grazed, a lion coughed, which Heracles undertook to fight. Meanwhile, Thespius gave the young hero one of his 50 daughters every night for 50 days, of which 50 sons were born. After a long struggle, Heracles killed the lion and since then wore its skin instead of his usual robe and its head as a helmet. A club made from an olive tree near Nemea was added later. In his anger he killed his wives and children. Heracles did penance and as the oracle of Delphi had called him. Armed with a club that he had carved himself, a sword given to him by Hermes, and a bow and arrow that he had received from Apollo, he went to Argos to King Eurystheus. This gave him a total of 12 mythical tasks. He suffocated the lion by constricting its throat. From then on he wore the lion's skin, which made him almost invulnerable. He burned out each of the Hydra's decapitated necks so that no new heads could grow back. He split the Hydra's body in two and dipped his arrows in its poisonous blood or bile, causing incurable, fatal wounds ever since. He hunted the deer for a whole year until he finally either caught her with a net over the sleeping hind or shot her with an arrow through her 2 front legs and tied her up. He drove the boar out of the forest into a snowfield, where it quickly got tired. To clean Geryon's cattle, Heracles channeled the nearby rivers Alpheos and Peneos through the stable. Athena gave him 2 large metal rattles with which he scared the birds and killed them one by one with poisoned arrows. He tamed the bull and led it to Eurystheus, showed it to him and then released the bull. Heracles accused Diomedes himself of being horse-eaters. After they had devoured their master, Heracles was able to tame them and lead them towards the sea. Although Hippolyte gave him the belt voluntarily, Hera's intrigue led to a fight, which Heracles won by killing Hippolyte and returning to Greece with the belt. Geryon challenged Heracles to a fight, which Heracles won with a poison arrow. Hera, who supported Geryon, was also wounded by Heracles and forced to flee. In order to obtain the apples of the Hesperides, Heracles tricked Atlas, the father of the Hesperides, into picking the apples for him. Hades allowed Heracles to temporarily remove the Hellhound from the underworld. Heracles defeated the dog without weapons and brought him to Eurystheus. That's what the ancient Greek world was like back then, and everyone took Heracles as an example. The first Olympic Games took place in 776 BC. During this time, individual great heroes went out into the world to perform heroic deeds, such as killing a wild boar with a club. These stories were the stuff from which heroes were made. When the Persian Wars broke out in 500 BC, the aim was to unite these individual heroes into a powerful army.